somebody clipped a part of one of my podcasts, I believe it was, where I was talking about what our society does to 19-year-old women, or 18-year-old women, 19-year-old women. We just lie to them all the time. You know, the first lie is, there's nothing more important than your career, more or less by definition. So that's the first lie. The second lie is, there will be nothing more important to you in your life than your career. So that's the second lie. And then the third lie is, there should be nothing more important in your life than your career. So that's the third lie. And then implicit in that is the idea that children are a burden, and that the idea that women should have children is part of the oppressive patriarchy and should be resisted. And who are men to tell me what I can do with my body? And hey, fair enough. And et cetera, et cetera.
Listen to what he was just saying. Okay. Those are like the three lies. Every one of those three lies is exactly what Mikhaila is embodying. And also those three lies, and I'll come back to that here in just a second, but that's exactly the conversation she's having with Jen Weiler here. And it's not that because I think on some level of consciousness, she understands what her father has been talking about really since 2017, because that first one I showed you a little while ago, the think good thoughts or think good or whatever it was, that was from 2018. That wasn't like 2022. That wasn't recent. That was before he went to go do his detox. And he's got quite a few more of those going on, such as the one that I led off with here, this one.
All of the demographic evidence suggests that women have become increasingly unhappy since the early 1960s. So, cross-sectional studies continually conducted year after year show precisely that. And it could easily be because they're taking on more and more responsibility. You think, well, you have a career and it's fulfilling and all of that, but it's not just fulfilling, it's stressful and difficult. And if you have a career and a family, especially if you're a single mother, well, good luck to you, man. You're run off your feet nonstop, and you're a target for every predatory male in the neighborhood.
Now, what am I missing here, Dr. Peterson? What am I missing or Mikhaila, what am I missing here? Well, I'll tell you what I'm missing here. I'm missing the conversation that she's having with Jen Weiler here to sort of give her this sort of excuse to get her out of the decision that she's made. In fact, the fact that she's even offended that anybody would want to say, hey, wait a minute, you might not want to petition all of your Instagram followers to be a babysitter for your kid. Like, where does that even enter into the equation in all of that? Where? Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thanks, Kevin. But where does that even enter in the equation? How often do you have to hear your dad say the same thing over and over and over again? But yet and I think she knows this. And that's why she goes and says, well, this is going to be very unpopular, but I need somebody to come and watch Scarlett while I go run off at 30 years old so that I can go and pursue my career. Now, she was also talking, I think it was like last July when I was doing the Kill to Party episode, I was sort of quote mining videos she had done. And then one of them was, of course, I forget the guy's name, but he was saying something to the effect of was Scarlett a mistake? And she's like, yes, that definitely was a mistake. And again, you can go look at that video and see exactly what the conversation was about. But I was looking at that, and then he said something, well, do you plan on having other kids in the future? She's like, oh yeah, I want to have 5 kids, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't know if that's a good idea. And then, of course, she decides that she wants to be a Christian. And then, of course, she decides that she wants to, divorce Andre. And now, of course, we find out that the whole reason for that, or the impetus behind that, is because she's with this other guy, I forget, Jordan something or other, the guy who's her new fiance. I don't know if they're married or not yet, but I'm like, and this, by the way, her fiance is 23 and she's 30. So there's a 7-year difference between these two. And I'm like, okay, well, if that's the case, if he's going to be her husband, what does he have to say about this? I mean, if he is the stepdad, what does he have to say about it? 23, you better jump. Jump in the fire, my friend, because that's where you are. And you need to get that chicken pocket, especially with the kid that when does he step in and go, that's not a good idea, honey? At what point? Because she doesn't need a husband. She doesn't need a father. She doesn't want any of that. She doesn't want a kid. She just wants to be single. This is exactly what I said in Kill the Party. Exactly. Scarlett is a hindrance. a hindrance to moving forward, to doing whatever the hell it is she's doing in Miami? I got no clue. Is she there with her dad? Is she on tour with him still? I got no clue. Nobody else has any clue. But her Instagram followers have a clue. And what planet is this a good idea? I just, you guys, you tell me, man. I just work here. So when I'm seeing this, like when I look at this stuff,
because the work of survival was very, very time consuming for our female ancestors. And that's the principle that I've always used in my home. Of course, your kids need to be your priority, and they need your attention, and they need focused attention. But this is not all day, every day. It couldn't be, because that's what I said in that sketch that you saw, tradition.
Okay. Well, if that's the case, if you want to say that your responsibility level as a mom is this, then at what point is career above that level, or below, for that matter? What comes first, your career or your kids? When you go and you look at Tinder right now, and you see a woman who's got like 3 kids, or maybe just not even 3, she's got 1 kid. What's the first thing on her profile? I have a kid. I'm a single mom. I'm 29, single mom. My kid comes first. If that's a problem, swipe left. She's already, she's preempting it. I only want guys who are cool with single mommies. That's essentially what that profile is saying right there. I have a kid, and you got to be good. My kid has to be number 1 in my life. All right. Now, whether that's true or that's not, the fact that they're putting it in the Tinder profile means that there's this sort of zeitgeist, right? There's this common knowledge amongst our, net culture that that's the way it ought to be. And so, okay, so if that's the case, at what point is kid number 1 and career number 2? At what point is kid number 1 and going on Fresh and Fit number 2? At what point is kid number 1 and you being in the club at 2 a.m. on a Wednesday night? At what point? Like, tell me where that is. Because right now, you want to know, like, people keep saying, well, what's wrong with the generation, Rollo? The kids are all criminals, and they don't know if they're boys or girls, and blah, blah, blah. I will tell you this. I'm not saying this is the only thing contributing to it, but this is most definitely a contributing factor. The fact that mommy wants to have this, killed a party by inch or by mile. Okay. It's an order of degree. I'm not saying like she's actually going to pull a Casey Anthony and put the kid in the trunk and kill the kid. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying killed a party is not just that. It's not that. That's the most extreme, like the most extreme example of it. Okay. But when I'm talking about killed a party, I'm saying at what point is the kid being inconvenient to you being active on the sexual marketplace? Because you said, okay, well, I'm going to have the kid, and but now I'm, I maybe even the father in this case, Andre probably would have loved to stay married and wanted to keep going. He seemed like he was very, dedicated into it and loyal. I don't know what the situation is, but I do know that I see more pictures of Scarlett on his Instagram than I do on Mikhaila's. So I can only go by visuals, by what you're prioritizing as being important, and that kid is not important. Not in the sense that it's like she's an accessory. She's only important when you want to appeal to single mommies. She's only important when you want to have Jen Weiler on here. That's when she's important. That you might say, well, that's just you think so? Well, let me hold on. Wait. You think so? That's a straw man, though. I've never argued against. I was only pointing out something that should be obvious. Not okay. Well, whatever. I'm trying to stay on top of the chat at the same time here. So at what point does career, because they're saying career, and I want to make a very important distinction here. I probably should have said this in the beginning. They're talking about career. Career is this, career is that, right? Well, my kids are the most important thing in my life until I got to go do a stand-up comedy act, until I got to write a book, until I've got to go on tour with my dad and ride his coattails, because, you don't know when this train's gonna end. So that's one. Number 2 is this. Okay, if that's the case, at what point does a kid become number 2 and the sexual marketplace become number 1? At what point are you going to put off your motherly duties, whatever, for your responsibilities to that child who you want to say in all public, as publicly as possible, is your number 1 priority in life? Okay, until you go on Fresh and Fit, until you go to the club, until you want to show up in your bikini outfit and you want to go to a yacht party. until you got to go and ask mom or ask grandma or ask some beta male orbiter to watch your kid. Or maybe you're just going to go petition your people, your friends and family or whatever on Instagram. Or maybe even you go to Rollo Tomassi and you go, Rollo, here's that kid. Okay, I'll be happy to take care of your kid. Right? At what point? At what point you go, you know what? This is so here's the quandary for Mikhaila. I'm joking here. But at what point, like when does it become a point of desperation where you're like, you know, maybe I'll take him up on that. Maybe I'll actually take him up on that, right? At what point is it like, well, my career ambitions and my desire to be in the sexual marketplace or whatever else doesn't the new guy, doesn't the fiance, like, doesn't he have like brothers and stuff? Because he looks like he has a big Christian family from like what, Texas or some shit like that, right? Well, his stepmom's not cool with Scarlett. The mom and the dad, they're not cool with that. Like, well, you've got an extended family of people who would be probably happy to fly out to Miami and hang out with you and watch the kid while you're doing whatever the fuck you're doing. At what point? At what point does being on a sexual marketplace supersede your responsibilities as a mother? At what point does your quote unquote career, because that's where this is going. Well, you don't want to live a boring life. Well, guess what? You've got a kid. Okay. I'm not saying you have to live a boring life, but you might have to ratchet it down a little bit because your responsibilities to that child should be number one. Should be. Okay. And you go, well, that's unfair because I'm a female and you're a male. Yeah. Yes, it is. You're 100% right. Because for men to be men, they have to create more resources than we expend. And you know what we do with that excess resource? We give it to our kids. And we give it to our wives, and we try to support and sustain a family, an extended family, and a tribe, and everything else. Yes, you're goddamn right. We do. Well, more access to do things. Well, welcome to a planet Earth. Welcome to the way it's been for a very long time. And I will tell you this: that when men talk about single mothers and like I think it's Rich Cooper is probably the best known for this, was, stay away from single mothers, right? That's a red flag. If she's on Tinder or whatever, and she says, I'm breaking up with my man, but I got a kid and my kid's number one. If that's a problem, swipe left. Okay. Well, that's a single mom. And yeah, you should take her advice, swipe left or whatever it is. Yeah. Get rid of her. Like, go move on to the next one. Because that's indicative of a woman who is placing, because the very fact that she's on Tinder in the first place, that is a woman who is placing her desire to be in the sexual marketplace above being a mother.